You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live. We are broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios. If you're just joining us, right now we're talking about the topic of bullies in homeowner associations, and we've been going through a story of an elderly woman named Doris Lohr, who said that in the community center where she lives in Arizona, that she's finding that people are just being very obnoxious and mean and yelling at her and not including her in anything that's going on.
That's right. Preventing her from participating, preventing her from using the facilities. She says it's a bunch of bullies.
Yeah. Now, you, Tony, you were mentioning right before the break that there are some things that are positive that we should look at. Well,
in the article, someone's quoted. Robin Boniface is quoted. She's a gerontology expert. She says, ultimately, we need to recommend better ways for social workers and caregivers to help the elderly handle their peer conflicts. She said there needs to be a clear expectation about what kind of behavior is appropriate, and the best way to deal with bullying is to have an all-around culture where it's not acceptable. I agree with that 100%. In my lifetime, starting as a kid and going through middle school and high school, bullying was tolerated. I mean, how many times did you hear, well, so that guy kicked you during recess, or that we've even had encounters when I was a kid where guys grabbed girls in the hall, threatened them, and the response was, well, boys will be boys. To me, that was a culture of tolerance for bullying.
Or out in the during recess, out in the playground, people are just roughhousing. A little bit of that's going to be normal.
But if there's an imbalance of power, that's not just roughhousing. That's bullying.
That's
so I agree that there has to be a cultural shift, that it's not acceptable. It's not a normal way for children or adults to interact.
And to me, that's where what's difficult is that you've got to have, to me, you have got to have more than clear expectations. That's a start, but
sure.
Just because everybody's now clear on what the expectation is, the problem is that not everybody buys into it. Right. And until you have everybody buy into it, you're going to still have issues. So I don't know that just having
a lot of things have changed in our culture because we've decided it's not the best way to operate, and huge issues like racism and slavery and women's right to vote.
Okay.
I mean, it was it required a cultural shift for those things to change. We have to.
Okay, that's very good.
The
point.
Society has to say, you know what? Don't talk to her that way. Don't talk to him that way. Don't make fun of him for that reason. I won't accept it.
Yeah.
The people surrounding the people involved. But you're right. Awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
Then how about consequences for the bullying behavior? I think would be another step. And part of the consequences are social pressure, peer pressure. Don't act that way.
And there is nothing like peer pressure in dealing with a bully.
I agree.
Now, in the case of, this is a little bit different with a bully in an HOA because we're talking about a retirement community where people have leisurely activity. Usually the bullying that we've dealt with and we've talked about in past shows have been the bully that's on the HOA board during a meeting, and we've talked about ways of how someone can deal with that type of bully and
who wants to control the whole process and be the only voice and
ultimately what you need to do is you do need to stand up, but but in an effective way.
Yes.
Now Doris stood up, but she got reprimanded by the HOA. So perhaps
we don't know what she did to stand up for herself.
So perhaps she may not have done it in the most effective way.
That could be true.
In the case of the bully on a HOA board, and they are being a little bit more demanding on what they want and how they want it. The best thing that other board members can do would be to stand up. And what you do is you ask the others on the board what their thoughts are. And when he begins to, or she begins to hear that the 3 or 4 others disagree,
right,
that helps put things in
better perspective
for them.
Yeah, it does. Another expert was quoted in this article, Steve Lacey, who's the ombudsman for the nonprofit area agency on aging in Phoenix, said ignoring bullies is a good strategy. I don't agree with that 100%. sometimes if I'm on an equal level in power with the person that's bullying me, probably walking away and ignoring it will work if I don't have to interact with that person anymore. But if I have to interact with you on a board of directors or in my community center and you're bullying me, ignoring you is probably not going to resolve the problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be, if someone is dealing with a bully, what would be the best first steps that they should take?
Well, I agree with Robin Boniface. It's the awareness and trying to help foment a cultural shift. Get some support from the people around you. Doris maybe needs to go back to her board again and say, here's the problem. Maybe you need to just keep repeating the problem in different ways. I think it's going to take all of us, peer pressure and consequences for the bully.
I agree. And if it's a case of her just wanting to assert herself in a group that's already together, then perhaps, like we said, if we don't know the full story.
That's right.
It may be Doris having different expectations, too.
That's right.
Okay. Well, that's dealing with bullies. What do you think? Are bullies a big problem where you are in your HOA? We can talk about that.
Call us, 651-289-4488. We got to give that phone number.
Yes, we
lot.
do. But I tell you what, let's take another quick break, and when we come back, we can talk about bullies, or we've got a question that came from a homeowner this last week, and we'll deal with that next.